Why you wouldn't last a day in the Ice Age. You step out of your shelter. The wind hits your face like a physical blow. Every breath you take burns your lungs. You look across a landscape of blinding white snow and shattered gray stone. How long can you survive out here? For 99% of human history, this was not a hypothetical thought experiment. This was every single morning during the last glacial maximum, roughly 20,000 years ago. Today, if your living room drops below 68 degrees, you feel a slight chill and you reach for a digital dial. During the Ice Age, a drop in temperature meant you had exactly hours to solve the problem. If you failed, your heart would simply stop beating. You think you could survive the Ice Age. You have seen the survival shows. You know how to build a basic fire. You know you need to wear heavy animal skins. But the reality of Pleistocene Europe or Ice Age North America would kill a modern human before the sun set on the very first day. Why? Because you fundamentally misunderstand what cold actually is. Cold is not just a feeling. Cold is a predator. It is a thermodynamic vacuum that actively hunts you, sucking the energy out of your living cells. Your body is a tropical machine. We evolved on the sweltering, sun-baked savannas of Africa. You lack a thick coat of fur. You lack dense layers of protective blubber. When the ambient temperature drops, your body panics. It immediately pulls warm blood away from your fingers, your toes, and your nose, rushing it to your internal organs to keep your core alive. This is called vasoconstriction. It is a desperate biological triage. Without modern thermal layers, frostbite sets in within minutes. Your delicate tissue physically freezes. Jagged ice crystals form inside your cells, rupturing them from the inside out. So how did your ancestors survive temperatures that regularly plunged to minus 40 degrees? They engineered their way out of dying. You might imagine primitive cavemen walking around in crude, single-layer loincloths made of uncured bearskin. That is a persistent myth. A single layer of fur thrown over your shoulders in an Ice Age winter is a rapid death sentence. To survive, early humans had to invent complex, tailored, multi-layered clothing. We know exactly how complex it was thanks to a massive archaeological site in Russia called Sungil. Dating back roughly 30,000 years, the burials at Sungil revealed human remains covered in thousands of carved mammoth ivory beads. But the beads were not just dumped haphazardly in the grave. As anthropologist Eric Trinkhaus analyzed the remains, he noted that the heavy beads were arranged in distinct, continuous patterns that once adorned tight-fitting tailored garments. Pants, shirts, heavy jackets, and moccasins. Your ancestors were wearing the prehistoric equivalent of high-end mountaineering gear. They layered an inner garment with a fur facing the skin to trap radiant body heat. They added an outer garment with a fur facing outward to break the punishing wind. But to make clothes that fit tightly enough to trap body heat, you cannot just tie raw skins together with vines. You have to sew them. How do you sew without steel? You use bone. In Denisova cave in Siberia, archaeologist Maxim Kozlikin and his team unearthed an eyed needle carved from the bone of a large prehistoric bird. It is roughly 50,000 years old. This tiny, fragile tool is one of the most important pieces of technology in human history. Without the eyed needle, humans could not make tailored, weatherproof clothing. Without tailored clothing, humans could never have expanded into the frozen north. Every time you button your winter coat against the freezing wind, you are repeating an action perfected by a shivering ancestor in a dark cave thousands of generations ago. Clothes only stop the cold from escaping. Your body still has to generate the heat in the first place. Your internal furnace runs on one thing: calories. Today, a modern adult needs about 2,000 calories a day to maintain their body weight. In the Ice Age, keeping your core temperature up while trekking through deep snow required a monumental amount of energy. Researchers estimate that Ice Age humans, particularly the robust neanderthals who shared this frozen world with us, needed upwards of 4,000 to 5,000 calories every single day just to avoid starving to death in the cold. Where do you get 5,000 calories a day when the ground is frozen solid and nothing grows? You hunt. You hunt massive, terrifying, heavily armed animals. You would not be trapping gentle rabbits. You would be hunting megafauna, mammoths, woolly rhinos, and giant ground sloths. These were not slow, lumbering targets waiting to be turned into dinner. They were defensive, aggressive, and highly dangerous. We have physical, frozen proof of just how terrifying this was. At White Sands National Park in New Mexico, researcher Matthew Bennett analyzed a set of fossilized footprints left in the mud over 20,000 years ago. The tracks tell a story straight out of a horror thriller. Human footprints are seen intentionally following the massive tracks of a giant ground sloth, a creature that stood 10 feet tall and possessed dense claws like curved scythes. The footprints show the sloth standing up on its massive hind legs, turning to violently confront the humans. The human footprints fan out, strategically circling the massive beast. They were tracking it. They were engaging it. With nothing but sticks tipped with sharpened stones. Imagine standing in the freezing mud, holding a heavy spear, looking up at a 10-foot wall of angry muscle and claws. You do not just need bravery to survive that moment. You need absolute, unwavering trust in the 3 other hunters standing quietly beside you. You have to know they will not run. This brings us to the most dangerous part of the Ice Age. It was not the biting cold. It was not the giant predators. It was the crushing isolation. Let us reconstruct a typical day in the darkest depths of an Ice Age winter. You wake up in a stone rock shelter. The fire has burned down to faintly glowing embers. It is pitch black outside. The winter night lasts for 14 agonizing hours. The wind outside is screaming through the valley. You cannot hunt in a blinding blizzard. You cannot forage under 6 feet of snow. You are trapped inside a small, smoky space with your extended family. For days. Maybe for uninterrupted weeks. The psychological toll of extreme cabin fever in an era without books, without phones, and without the certainty of your next meal would completely break a modern mind. How did they survive the crushing anxiety of the dark? They talked. They told stories. Anthropologist Polly Wisner spent decades studying the conversation patterns of modern hunter-gatherers, specifically the Juhwansi people of southern Africa, to understand how early humans might have interacted. She discovered a distinct, fascinating difference in how people talk depending on the time of day. During daylight hours, conversations were strictly practical. They were about hunting, gathering, resolving economic disputes, and complaining about daily chores. But when the sun went down and the campfire was lit, the conversations shifted completely. The firelight brought out stories, myths, tales of the distant ancestors, the spirit worlds. The fire extended the day, allowing human brains to synchronize their emotions and fears. During the brutal, endless nights of the Ice Age, Storytelling around the hearth was not just light entertainment. It was a vital psychological survival mechanism. It bonded the vulnerable group together. It encoded crucial survival knowledge into memorable myths that could be passed down through generations. If you were dropped into the Ice Age, your complete inability to endure the profound sensory deprivation and the social claustrophobia would kill your mind long before the frostbite took your fingers. There is a counterintuitive twist to all of this ancient hardship. We tend to view the Ice Age as a tragic, freezing hurdle that humanity had to painfully overcome. We view the cold as the enemy of human progress. But the truth is entirely backward. The Ice Age did not just test us, it built us. The extreme evolutionary pressures of the Pleistocene epoch acted as a genetic and cultural forge. To survive the creeping cold, you had to plan months in advance. You had to cache preserved food. You had to perfectly time the complex migrations of reindeer herds. You had to invent sewing, complex language, and elaborate social networks that stretched across hundreds of miles of frozen tundra so that if your local hunting grounds failed, another tribe might take you in. Our brains grew massive and complex, not because we had an easy life in the tropics, but because the environment was so punishingly unforgiving that only the most cooperative, forward-thinking, and socially intelligent apes survived. The Ice Age was not an evolutionary trap. It was the brutal crucible that burned away the ape and left the human. Today, we have entirely conquered the cold. We have central heating, heavily insulated walls, and heated car seats. We have engineered the physical danger out of winter. We look at falling snow through double-paned glass and think it looks beautiful. We have completely forgotten the ancient terror of the frost. Yet your ancient body remembers. When you walk out to your car on a brisk January morning and you violently shiver, that is not just a meaningless reflex. That is a deeply embedded survival protocol. That is a 300,000-year-old alarm system going off in your nervous system, warning you that the predator is back. Your muscles rapidly contract and relax to generate vital heat. Your blood retreats to your core to protect your organs. Your body is urgently preparing for a battle that your modern, comfortable lifestyle will never require it to fight. You carry the complex anatomy of an Ice Age survivor, trapped in a world of climate-controlled comfort. The next time you complain about a slight draft in your modern house, or feel annoyed that you have to scrape morning frost off your windshield, pause for a moment. Look at your bare hands. Look at your stitched clothes. Think about the tiny bone needle. Think about the massive cave bear. Think about the endless, screaming dark of the winter night. You step out of your shelter. The wind hits your face like a physical blow. But this time, you do not shrink away. You realize your body was built for the ice.